Can y'all feel it? The preseason and training camp are right around the corner with Media Day going down tomorrow for the Chicago Bulls. And we're going to talk about the biggest questions that the Chicago Bulls have to answer in preseason, during the season, everything. The biggest questions facing the Chicago Bulls during the season, and we're diving into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Derrick Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to talk about the questions for the Chicago Bulls heading into training camp. And I know we've kind of done versions of this, but now kind of how everything is shaking out. We're going to get into the final version of this with training camp opening on Tuesday. Media Day is going down tomorrow. Actually, going to hear from the players. We're going to hear from Billy Donovan. We're going to hear from AK, Arturas Carnisover, the Bulls president of basketball operations. And we're about to get gaslit. That's what's about to happen. But with that said, what are some of the questions facing this team? First question that I have is, what is this team going to be this season, right? What is this season going to look like? And this isn't something that's going to be told right away, right? This is not something that is going to be answered in preseason. This is something that's going to be told over how the course of this season goes, is exactly what this team is. And I think, you have your Bulls fans, you have your also the odds makers who have the Bulls over under at 28.5 as far as wins for the season. You have your Bulls fans that are really optimistic that have said that they feel like this is a Bulls team that could win 40 games. I don't agree with that, but listen, we'll know all that as the season develops, and I think we'll know that fairly early into the season as well, as far as what type of season this is going to be for the Bulls. Is this a pseudo rebuild year? Is this a year of just evaluation of what we have for the young talent? Is a foundation laying year where this young talent steps up? And while they may not win a lot of games, they set down a solid foundation of a core, and then it's up to the Bulls to keep developing and add to that over time. It's going to be that's one of the most exciting times where this Bulls team has gone younger. I know we still have Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic on this roster, but I think that as many new young players that we have, and as many young players that are going to get added opportunities this year. Of course, Coby White, can he build off his year? We got Josh Giddey stepping in here as a new starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. Ayo Dosunmu goes into yet another new role. Then we got Modest Bucilis, right, as the young rookie. Julian and Dalen, who are looking to show something. And then the old faithful, Patrick Williams. What can he show and round out this year for the Chicago Bulls? And to that, we added 24-year-old Jalen Smith as well, another young player, right? So we got some young talent on this team that are be given opportunities. Let me rephrase that. That have the opportunity to earn roles on this team, and we'll see how that develops out for them. Next up, whose team is this, right? There's a couple of different scenarios this can go. Of course, and by whose team, it's not just who gets the most shots or necessarily who scores the most points. That's not always whose team it is, right? I want to be clear. There's a world in which Zach LaVine still averages the most points, but this is clearly now Coby White's team, right? Depending on how he steps up as a leadership role, right? How much of the decisions go through him in the clutch time, in crunch time, those type of things, right? Who steps up as the vocal leader of this team? Now, I think that there's two separate storylines going on here, right? You have the who's going to step up as the leader of this team, and then how the offense is going to shake out and who's going to be the leader there. I think the dynamic between Josh Giddey, Coby White, and Zach LaVine is hugely important to the Chicago Bulls team, and how that works out. And, however that dynamic between those three players shake out, which is where most of our offense is coming from theoretically in that starting lineup, I think that's important to build of what type of offensive philosophies and scheme that Billy Donovan's going to have. So it's going to come down to Josh Giddey as that point guard, the playmaker that he's turned into, and how he's going to come and try to bring that to the Chicago Bulls. Is Coby White taking another step based off what his game was last time, being one of the best clutch players in the NBA last season, and now having to grow into that role even more with DeMar DeRozan being gone. And then, of course, the storyline of Zach LaVine, right, and how he tries to fit in. But that dynamic between those three players specifically on that starting lineup is important. And then as well, like I said many times, is who develops and turns into that leader for the Chicago Bulls, right? Who is that leader, that vocal guy, the guy that brings that team together, that holds players accountable, holds themselves accountable, steps up in the right moments, right? Those type of things. That's another thing that we're looking for. So whose team is this is another big question facing the Chicago Bulls heading into training camp. And again, that's something that it may develop in training camp. Like we've seen times like that before. It may develop by the end of preseason. But I think that's more of a story as well that we're looking at and seeing how it goes over the course of this season of who turns into that leader for the Chicago Bulls team. And when we get the answer to that, all right, then what's next after that, right? And then, like I said, the offensive dynamic, second question there, like the balance offensively that this Bulls team tries to strike is going to be really important to all that as well. And I think that's another thing to look out for. Next up, Patrick Williams, man. Does Patrick Williams, A, stay healthy, and does he step up? Like, this is a question we've been asking ourselves when it comes to Patrick Williams for years, right? Is this finally the season that Patrick Williams makes that step or makes that leap? And eventually you're going to stop asking that question and just Patrick Williams is who he is. Now, I want to be clear here, right? Despite what some people will tell you and some Bulls fans will tell you is that a Patrick Williams that can be a 10-point per game, 10 to 12-point per game scorer, plays the solid defense, a 40% three-point shooter, that's a player that sticks around on the team. Now, as of the 4th overall pick by this team, we're hoping that he develops into more than that, of course. But, you know, and that's going to be the continued question. A, I think we've kind of talked about this like there's going to be a whole lot of more opportunity for Patrick Williams. I want to be clear here. He's still probably going to be the 4th option on offense, maybe even the 5th option on offense, depending on how Nikola Vucevic shakes out for this team. So there's a really big chance of that as well. There's not all of a sudden Patrick Williams is going to go from getting his 8 to 9 shots per game to 12 or 13 shots per game per se. That could come via, of course, Billy Donovan running a system for him and working more plays into that with him and Patrick Williams being more aggressive. But Patrick Williams is still going to be 4th, maybe 5th in the offensive scheme. Now, you have a playmaker like Josh Giddey that even though he's going to have a high usage rate and can score when he gets to the mid-range and the rim a lot as well, but he's a playmaker, so he can maybe get Patrick Williams more involved there. But there's still that thing there that Patrick Williams isn't necessarily all of a sudden going to be this player that's gaining a lot more shots per se. Now that I think that still, like I've said, has to come down to his own aggression level. It has to come down to what he wants to show as a player and how he's developed his mentality, of course. But yeah, so you know, what Patrick Williams do we get? A, can Patrick Williams stay healthy for a season? Seems like we get one healthy season for Patrick Williams, then a not healthy season for Patrick Williams. So like we're in pace to get a healthy Patrick Williams season, which I think could be important and big. But overall, we can't just assume that. And so because of that, we got to wait and see what's that going to turn into for people. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Then next up for that is, what do we see from the young guys, right? The young players on this team. Matas Bucelis, Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry. These guys are players that we're all looking to see what we develop and what turns into for those guys this year. And let's hope that they turn into something, right? Let's hope that they develop into something. And if they do, that's going to be big for this Bulls team. So, and then the last one, and this is one that I don't want to overlook, you know, outside of the young guys, which are very important to see how these young guys take a step up next season, how these young guys turn and show themselves to be a big part of the Bulls rotation, and Matas, Julian, and Dalen, what kind of roles can they earn, especially Matas in his rookie year. But then Ayo Dosunmu, and I don't, like I've said it before over on Locked on Bulls, Ayo Dosunmu is a guy that you can't overlook. And the reason why is because Ayo Dosunmu could be one of the reasons why this team works. Ayo Dosunmu has the chance to be a glue guy for this team in the truest sense of the word. He brings defense. He brings some offense. He brings some ability to in transition. He could be a stabilizing factor for that bench unit and kind of lead that bench unit with Matas Bucelis, Jalen Smith, and those guys, especially as they like to get out and run. And he was our best fast break player last year, but also was being the first guy potentially off the bench for the Chicago Bulls. He can help that dynamic of Josh Giddey, Zach LaVine, Kobe White work, because the way that he's able to step in and play the 1, the 2, and we saw him play the most 3 that he played ever in his career last year, and that could step up even more this year. Ayo Dosunmu has the chance to be the glue guy for the Chicago Bulls team, a guy that just makes the lineups work. When one of the other guys aren't bringing it, he can step in, up that. If his ability to play with all 3 of those guys works out in the way that it looks like on paper, that dramatically changes the outlook of this team as well. All these things are pointing towards it just really developing for the Chicago Bulls. And so, you know, Ayo Dosunmu, it has the chance to be so important to what the Bulls are doing this season and trying to accomplish this season that, like I said, I don't want to overlook it. Like, I think we've slept. I have. And I've said this before over on LOB, but it's just I do not want to overlook the growth that Ayo Dosunmu had last year. Don't sleep on that. He had just as much growth as Kobe White basically did last year, especially when you look at how he finished that season. And an Ayo Dosunmu that then picks that up, now being the lead guy off the bench for the Bulls and playing at a high level, he has the chance to be such an important role for this Bulls team that I think he's an important one to have. His own question there is, can Ayo Dosunmu be the glue to it all? And if he is, I think that, at the value that you have in Ayo Dosunmu's age, contract, and production, he could be one of the best value players in the NBA when it's all said and done. And we'll see how that develops. But let me know your guys. What are your biggest thoughts, your questions for the Chicago Bulls heading into next season? But with that said, it's Mailbag Day. It is Sunday, so we're going to get into these voicemails. This one's from Vaughn.
What's up, Haize? This is Vaughn. So I had a question for you, man. So originally I was going to ask you, for the Chicago Bulls players at 25 and under, which one at their best of their whole career would you make a bet on of being an all-star level player? And at first I was going to make you do 3, but I think 5 choices makes it a little bit harder because I think I can guess the first 3 you're going to say. But give me 5 players that you think at the best of their whole career you could see having the best potential to be an all-star at some point. But all right, let me know. All right, peace.
All right, Vaughn, and to answer your question, you said, so players under 25 that could be all-stars in their prime. You kind of rephrased it. I think that's what I got from that. So let's say the Bulls have basically 9 players that are under 25. Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Jalen Smith, P. Will, Dalen Terry, Adama Sanogo, Josh Giddey, Julian Phillips, and Modest Vucevic, right? So those are the players under 25 on the Chicago Bulls roster. Out of those 9, I can't even get 4. I think Kobe White, Ayo, Josh Giddey, Modest Vucevic. Those are the guys that I see at the height maybe being all-stars. Patrick Williams at this point, I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen enough of it, neither from Dalen. Adama Sanogo doesn't really strike me as a player that's going to ever be really all-star level. He could be a very productive backup bench big. And Julian, I haven't seen enough from it either. And some could say, well, Haize, you haven't seen anything from Modest Vucevic, so why is he on the list? But Modest Vucevic is on the list because of the potential that's there, right? He's the Bulls' highest pick since Patrick Williams, so I see that. But yeah, those are the guys. Now, out of those guys, who do I see having the best potential season out of that? I'll say Kobe because of his versatility right now, but I could easily see that being Modest Vucevic as well, or Josh Giddey, especially if Josh Giddey's able to add at least a decent 3-point shot. But I'll put Kobe White for now. Hopefully that answers your question. Great voicemail. Let's get into this next one. This one's from Jamal.
What's up, Haize? It's your boy Jamal back again with another voicemail for you. 3 minutes, let's get into it. So the boy Derrick Rose has officially announced, I guess, his retirement from the NBA after 16 seasons. Man, that is a blessing. Of course, his career didn't go the way that a lot of us had hoped it would go, especially as Bulls fans. It didn't end with whether it was him getting a championship while he still played for the team or us getting good enough to invite him back on one magic, championship run where he comes and plays a pivotal part on our championship team and somehow helps us win the championship for the Chicago Bulls. We didn't get that. Or even him getting a championship in general. Of course, we didn't get that. But what I do remember is the memories that he will leave with us for his career. Backstory about me, I grew up a Bulls fan because my father was a Bulls fan, but I didn't really watch basketball. Sorry, this sucks out bad. But I didn't really watch a lot of basketball. I didn't really watch basketball at all. I just said I was a Bulls fan because, one, that's what my father was, and 2, that was my local team at the time. I didn't become a basketball fan, in terms of watching the sport of basketball the way that I do now, until 2009 when we drafted Derrick Rose. And even then, it took Game 6 in the first round of the playoffs against the defending champion Boston Celtics, a game in which we went into triple overtime with them, for me to state, I'm going to watch every single game the Bulls play moving forward. And that's what grew my love of basketball as a whole. Watching Derrick Rose go from Rookie of the Year to becoming an All-Star in his second year, and then the final, the third season when the MVP. Man, when I tell you I was the biggest fan of Derrick Rose at the time, and I was the biggest fan of the Chicago Bulls, I thought we was next up. Now, of course, again, things didn't go the way we expected, and that's okay. You got to continue to grind and keep moving. But it was crazy. That time was just so special for us as Bulls fans. Seeing the baby Bulls to what we did become, and no, we never got the chance to reach what I felt was our peak, or what we could have been. But those memories will last a lifetime. I remember when he got injured and the feeling that I felt. It felt like somebody punched me in my stomach. I could not bring myself to watch any highlights of Derrick Rose for like the next 2 years or the next year and a half because he was out with the injury of the ACL. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But that being said, I will still remember the memories, the dunks, the plays, spectacular, games that we had with him. And you know what? Shout out to Derrick Rose. I wish him the best moving forward in his life and his family. Other than that,
Derrick Rose's retirement is something that sent shockwaves through a lot of Bulls fans. I think a lot of Bulls fans as well like to see a player like to start to finish to retirement. Like it always kind of wakes you up to like the mortality of it, right? And that triple overtime game is legendary. And I think a lot of basketball fans were made that day. With just seeing that triple overtime game, the Bulls versus the Celtics, that was a legendary series, right? And I'm not even saying that just because as a Bulls fan, that is a legendary series. So I think overall, when it comes down to it, man, Derrick Rose's time in the NBA, what he meant at one point, of course, is always going to be what could have been. The what ifs around Derrick Rose are always going to be there. But Derrick Rose was such a special talent, such a special player, and a special human being. And I can't wait to see what he does next. I can't wait to see what he does and how he develops into his retirement and things like that. All right, let's get into the next one. This one is from Matty Legend.
Oh, what up, Haize? This is Matty Legend. You know how I am. I'm always trying to think 5 steps ahead. I heard something about, Modest trying to send to the G League to develop. And after looking at all these players that we've been getting over the last, off season, thinking, all right, so he can pick up THT, got Kenny Lofton Jr. Don't sound like they're trying to bring Sanogo up from the G League. So they're going to put all these players in the G League. It's who? Billy Donovan Jr. I think that they trying to give Billy Donovan Jr. super team in the G League, if I can even say that, so that he could develop, he can get some clout, then he can end up with a assistant coaching job or something like that in the NBA. Maybe even skip over that. Somebody might just try to hire him as a head coach somewhere. But that's what it's looking like to me. Talking about putting Modest in the G League because he gonna kill it. You already got Sanogo down there. So let me know what you think, Haize.
First of all, saying a super team in the G League is wild. First of all, I want to start off there because now I don't know if they're really trying to develop Billy Donovan Jr. like that. I think maybe it was just like I don't know. Like the Bulls have never really used the G League as a place to develop a coach. I don't even know like assistants or anything. I think it may be to give Billy Donovan Jr. a job, right? To take care of one of your guys that the son of your coach. And if something develops over that, he ends up on Billy Donovan's staff, so be it. But I don't know if it's anything. And then as far as Modest Vucevic, I don't know if Modest Vucevic is even going to spend a lot of time in the G League, right? I don't know that. Especially if he's able to earn a role here in training camp to where he actually is going to get some minutes. He may not spend any time at all down in the G League, to be honest with you. I know Dalen has. I know Julian spent some time down there as well, but not a lot for Julian Phillips. It was very quickly they realized, hey, let's get this guy up. I think Modest Vucevic could be the same. Keep in mind, he played in the G League basically last year, so I don't know if they're really going to learn anything from him down there being in the G League. I would assume he didn't even really spend any time in the G League. So I think ultimately Modest Vucevic is probably going to, be on that roster. I don't know if they're trying to assemble a super team, right? Because THT can't sign a two-way contract, so it's either going to be a G League contract outright or he's going to make this roster. Kenny Lofton Jr. is a really solid player, but I don't know if that turns it into any type of super team down there in the G League. The Bulls are just using the G League as they always should have, and that's getting an opportunity to look at some talent and to see how you can develop these guys and maybe they can turn into something for you. And I think that's the route right to go with the G League person. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one is from Korn.
What it don't do, King Drip, it's your boy Korn, man. Hey, man, let's just, your boy back, man. Just work and scheduling, man. Just long story short, I'm back at this motherfucker, man. And we go get right into this shit like we always do, man. Like I ain't never left the bitch. So, our boy, man. D Rose, man. Let's get into it, man. Let's talk about him, man. He retired, man. Oh wow. There's so much to get into it with that. So much to unpack. But I'm just fit to just give you and give Bulls Nation. What's up, C-Red Nation? Miss y'all too, man. Let's give y'all a quick story about the mistake I made. All right. So let's go to the draft. Okay, D Rose draft. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a little secret about me, man. And I hate to admit this. I truly do. But I'm gonna be 100 with you. I did not want D Rose as the first pick for the Bulls. Okay, I remember just watching my first daughter. She's 16 now. That's crazy. 16 years old. She retired after 16 years. It's real crazy. My daughter was born the day he lost to my college team, Kansas Jayhawks, and he was playing for Memphis. My daughter was getting born on that day, on April 8th, the day he lost to Mario Chalmers and them. So, and that was really my first look. I didn't know he was a Chicago kid and all this other stuff, right? So, draft day come. You know who I wanted? I didn't want a Derrick Rose. I wanted the number one player in the country at that time. Well, you could say number one, number two, arguably. Mike Beasley. I never forget it because he was a prototype of a LeBron type. Like, he reminded me of LeBron, Dame, and all that, right? Big man, jamming, passing, and all that. And I just came to think about it, man. That was the biggest fucking mistake I would have ever made. Picking Mike Beasley over the GOAT himself, Derrick motherfucking Rose, man. Damn, man. Love you, D Rose. Thank you for everything, man. Hey, man, I'm back at it like a crack addict, Haize, man. We back at this shit, King. Man, you know I appreciate you, big bro. You know I love you. C-Red, I love you.
First of all, how many numbers you gonna have, bro? I think this is like the third number I now have saved for you, bro. Like, stop switching your numbers. I don't know why y'all switch y'all numbers so much. Like, who y'all hiding from? The Fed? Who y'all hiding from? What's going on at home, bro? What's going on? Is everything okay at home? But with that said, man, listen, there are a lot of people, I think, more than that will admit it now, that wanted the Bulls to draft Michael Beasley. Especially look at that time. He was on that KD path. People like really looked at him as. And I think that Michael Beasley would have been the player that you could have added to the team theoretically and not a lot changed. He would have fit right in what the Bulls needed then at the 4 next to Luol Deng. He would have brought some scoring punch that team needed theoretically. Now we know how their careers went. And Michael Beasley really didn't amount to anything special in the NBA. And I think that, just to say that, like, I think a lot more people, of course, Chicagoans are different, but I'm talking about around the basketball world, were like, man, maybe the Bulls should take Mike Beasley. But I'm glad the way that it went. I was always a Derrick Rose guy for what it's worth, right? And that's mainly because of him being from Chicago and how that NCAA tournament, and like he was on a tear. So, yeah, but I think there are more people that would agree with that. And at the end of the day, it went the way it went. We all have players that, like, I saw it for Tyrus Thomas. That didn't work and turn out to anything. So there you go there. All right, let's get into this last voicemail. This one is from Shay.
Yo, Haize, look, man, you probably won't get this in time, or you probably may hear it, but Bulls fans are turning crazy as hell. Look, I understand y'all people want to get rid of Vooch and all that, but goddamn, bro, y'all want to get Mitchell Robinson, a fool that can't stay healthy for long. You must forget there is a reason why Karl Anthony Towns just got traded to the New York Knicks due to the fact of him can't stay healthy. You must forget, people must forget, and I'm not saying you, that Mitchell Robinson is the reason why Isaiah Hartenstein got that damn contract due to his injuries. Look, I'm not saying, I know people got differences of opinions, but come on, man, we already dealing with a lot of injuries as it is. And y'all want this motherfucker who haven't been healthy in the last few seasons? I know people gonna say he fits the timeline, blah 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 blah, all that other shit. But we got guys like Adamas Nogo who can stay much more healthy than that. And come on, man, I know Vooch is getting a little older, but he offers a lot more than Mitchell Robinson at this point in his career, and he's much more durable. Look, I'm not saying that you brought it up, but a lot of fans have been bringing it up, getting Mitchell Robinson. The answer is no. We could do a whole lot better. Matter of fact, I'd rather rest my case with Adamas Nogo before I trust Mitchell Robinson. At least you know he can stay healthy. Matter of fact, hell no, I'd rather rest my case with Nikola Vucevic. At least you know he can put numbers on the board and he can stay healthy. Anyway, tell me what you think. Peace.
All right, so first off, I want to say this. Mitchell Robinson, I have seen nobody in the comment section here at Chicago Bulls Central mention Mitchell Robinson, and maybe that just comes down to, we thank God here. But, here's the thing. I do not want the Bulls to trade for Mitchell Robinson. I think that's more of a win-now move if you're trying to bring that. But guys know I like to talk about and look at things from all sides. So here's the thing. If the Bulls were to move Mitchell Robinson, and let's say they were able to make a move for him that somehow included Vooch being rerouted somewhere else, Mitchell Robinson is expiring at the end of next season. His contract is it goes down. It's $14.3 million this season, only $12.9 million the following season. So you actually gain some salary cap space that way. And then when Mitchell Robinson is healthy, which is a big if, he does provide a lot of what the Chicago Bulls need. Like, I get what you're saying as far as production with Vooch offensively, but the Bulls don't necessarily need a bunch of offense from the center position. They need shot blocking. They need rim defense. They need versatility defensively. And Mitchell Robinson brings a lot of those things. So there are some basketball reasons why it makes sense. Yeah, he's never going to put up the numbers that Nikola Vucevic does, but you don't necessarily need him to with how this team is now constructed. And I also think having a point guard like Josh Giddey that can get him lobs and things like that could be. So there are some basketball reasons why I would see people being interested in that. But to me, that's the type of move that either you're making if you're kind of rerouting Vooch and you're getting Mitchell Robinson back in that type of move. I don't think the Knicks would want Vooch, so it probably would have to be a 3-team deal. But then even if the Knicks do move Mitchell Robinson, they're probably looking for a 4 or 5 that fits next to Karl Anthony Towns a little bit better and can stay healthy to help for their playoff run. They're not just dumping him off somewhere. So that's the type of thing that I think would happen. But there are some basketball reasons. I get it. Vooch is your guy, Shea. He's always been your guy. But there are some basketball reasons why it would make some sense. Again, but that's taken into consideration. That's hoping that he's going to be healthy. And that's not something we've typically seen from a Mitchell Robinson. So there's that part in it as well. So, like I said, I just like to attack things from all angles, talk about it from all sides. I don't want to see the Bulls trade for Mitchell Robinson, but if they were to trade for Mitchell Robinson, there are some basketball reasons why that would make some sense. So, but that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullsCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, woo! I almost did the Bears intro. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.